What's going on,
Hey.
man? What's going on? Welcome to another episode of No Clue. It's your boy Doc coming at you live from somewhere in my house because it's Tuesday and I don't know where I am right now. But welcome to another episode. If you're watching us, go ahead and do me a favor. Like, subscribe, reblog. Like us on YouTube, like us on Instagram, like us on what's the one the gamer people stuff. That stuff,
Twitch.
Yeah,
Twitch.
like us on Twitch. Like us on YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube and support us on Patreon. And as Arterial would say, like us on Christian Mingo.
You gotta say Christian Mingo.
Y'all, welcome to another episode. You see, we got DJ with us. You know what? I'm gonna start saying his real name. We got Dr. DJ with us because he's a doctoral candidate. We're gonna go ahead and speak that. Y'all, we got a special guest on the show with us tonight. This is a gentleman who I admire. He's educated. He's funny. He's a spiritual leader. You can ask him questions. He's not like, I'm going to say it because it's my show. He ain't like typical pastors where you can't ask them a question.
I just want for this graphic to loop on out.
Yeah.
And then we can continue this conversation because it's clearly his face.
We have a little bit of a technical difference.
Right, we got it. If you didn't get it by now, subscribe and follow us. That's the takeaway message of tonight.
But our special guest is none other than spiritual leader Romel Parks Weekly. This is the other half of the Parks guy. Remember them? The one you guys like? This is his husband. So welcome, spiritual leader. How you doing today?
I'm very well. Thank you all for having me. I'm really looking forward to some good dialogue. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, it's going to be some interesting dialogue. So what we do every week, guys, you see our girls are missing. Arteria's at home taking care of the cutest little booger ever known to mankind, my godson. He is so precious and bad. That baby is bad. He slapped the Holy Ghost out of me when I was down there. And I was like, you won, bro. We can square up. And y'all know Chevy is pregnant. She's prego. And if y'all see her, she big. Oh, she's showing. I know she's going to kill me when she sees me. But, baby, she got the pregnant girl walking you leaning back with it. Yes. So they're not with us tonight. So tonight it's just the boys, and we having some real conversation. We having some guy talk, you know what I'm saying? Some guy one-on-one. But we got to do our check-in first. So how was everybody's week since last time we talked? How was everybody's Mother's Day? Any mothers on the call?
Besides myself?
Oh God! I just cracked myself up with that. So, how was everybody week? Check in.
It's only two of us, so who you gonna call?
DJ, Romel. What should we call you first, Romel? Introduce yourself and tell us what should we call you.
Romel is fine. And hi, everybody. My week was good. Has been good so far, at least. It just started, so no complaints at all.
DJ.
My week is always busy. School is still on the horizon. No, I do not get a break because I'm not in a traditional program, so we don't run on traditional semester. So school is still school. But they tried to get the kid with an abstract assignment, and the kid still got a 100. And I'm not an abstract thinker, so I'm super proud of myself for that. Mother's Day was great. Hosted a brunch for my mom in conjunction with a very, very special person, and we did our thing, and it was dope.
Yes, I heard that your mother loved that bourbon brown sugar salmon with that 5 cheese risotto and roasted asparagus. Yes, I heard it was phenomenal.
And of course, the $60 blue velvet cupcakes.
Right. If you know DJ, y'all know his mama is like an upgrade of DJ. So you know how bougie DJ is? His mama is just as bougie.
My mom is not bougie. My mom is actually really, really super laid back. But when she likes something, she likes something. So
your mama like molded
it's
lamb.
no budging on that. Like that's it. That's all.
You and your mama eat molded lamb. Y'all bougie.
You gonna stop telling people that it's mole lamb.
Whatever I said.
And people know mole is just a chocolate sauce with spices. It's super dope.
But y'all eat lamb, and they eat lamb like
we like lamb.
They eat lamb like it's $2.99 or something like that.
We eat lamb in place of red meat. So instead of steaks, we have lamb. So you still get the feel of having steak without necessarily having red meat.
Instead of steak, we eat lamb. Instead of being bougie, we're bourgeoisie. Okay, got it. Okay. Let me guess, y'all shop at Target too. Y'all don't shop at Walmart. Y'all do it at Target. Huh?
No, we do. Amosin.
Come on, Amosin. Romel, we laugh and joke on the show. It's a lighthearted show until we get serious. DJ is doing our first Say What topic. He's our system and processes department. So anytime DJ has something to do, we gotta think. Anytime I got something to do, we laugh, we joke. It's very like DJ makes us think. Last show I had a rant because I deal with racism now, and so I just went off. They let me go off.
But it tied into what we were talking about, so it worked.
Yeah, because I was ready. Like, sometimes people, they try your gangster. And I have to let them know I'm from the south side of the kingdom. I don't mind. Look, if you look, is where I'm from, all right? Like, ain't nothing but space and opportunity.
Did you say you deal with racism now like you didn't deal with it in the past when you were down south? So,
down south, they just blunt with it. Like, I don't like the N-word. They blunt with it. Up here, these jokers are low-key like, you're very, what did he say? What did he call me? You're aggressive and you're aggressive and passionate when it's something you care about. You just called me an a-hole. Sir, do you think I'm that stupid? I'm that naive? Let me tell you about, no, I can't say that because you're a spiritual leader, but I said, just know what I said. No, I told him, I was like, your mother should have swallowed. That's what I said. Because it was just
the covertness is real. That's all
I'm just like, but that's what I work with. But to God be the glory, because I was told by somebody that I choose to believe. Mm-hmm. When I tell you that thing been resonating with me, and today when they came at me sideways today, I said I choose to believe. Got not one, but 2 interviews, and both of them were like, "We're gonna call you back. Don't worry about it. You get a call by Friday." I said, "Well, this is my minimum I'm asking for." Oh, that's easy. We got that. What? Come through, Jesus. When I get them, I'm going to have to high five you, bro. All right.
As long as they in St. Louis, we good.
They are in St. Louis. I'm not leaving the St. Louis. I actually come to love St. Louis, y'all. Like, this is, they say the crime. St. Louis is this big. If you do your research, if you have any bit of education, you understand that the smaller the city, the larger the crime ratio, right? Come on. We just need to reassume all these other cities around us. Okay, DJ, go ahead. Correct.
I'm not gonna say nothing. We're gonna move on because we're gonna move. We're gonna move on. I'm not gonna say anything.
What I say one time, a DJ went all the way off on me. You would thought we was enemies. Like you would thought we was Cain and Abel the way he came at me. He was like, "Well, first of all, when an African American, because I can't say the B word, when an African American say first of all, that's when it's gonna get real."
No, it wasn't about that. I just believe in correcting misinformation at the source because we have a tendency to let misinformation pass and then it perpetuates. And then that's how we have these whole misconceptions about what something is or is not because nobody took the time to correct it.
See why he's our system and processes department?
Yes, indeed.
That is why. All right, let's get to our Say What.
Say what?
All right, y'all. So today, Say What is about something that is really, really on the horizon. That's really, really pertinent. Even though I don't live in this area, but it's pertinent to me. So we're going to talk about Florida's Parental Rights Education Bill, also known as the Don't Say Gay Bill. Are y'all familiar with the term, what the concept is? But anyway, for our viewership and our readers, what this bill is it was a bill that will ban classroom instruction on sexual orientation or gender identity in grades K through 12. But the bill itself reads, and I quote, it will ban it in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students in accordance with state standards, end quote. So, what we know about bills and what we know about language is when language is vague, it has larger implications. So, what do y'all think about that? What are y'all thoughts on that? So let's take the first part of that. Sexual education, sexual orientation in grades K through 3.
Well, I think part of the problem is that they don't want to teach kids about sex at all. And so when you add the sexual orientation component of that, which doesn't always just equal heterosexual, then that's just a double whammy. So, I think they're just using it as an excuse to be bigoted, as an excuse not to expose children to the real world, the way that the world really works. And it's funny to me because a lot of these same children are watching movies with their parents, so they're seeing things and hearing things, but yet to actually learn about it in an environment that could actually produce a very positive, produce positive fruit from it, then they have a problem with it because they're not there to indoctrinate their kid on what to think about it. And it's not so much that the school is trying to indoctrinate the children; they're just letting them know more people exist in the world than just the people that your parents may necessarily expose you to. And I don't think that's a bad thing, personally.
Wow. So yeah, I feel like when we had Brittany on with DJ, yeah. Here we go. 2 people from the System and Processes department. This department is growing.
Expanding.
Jesus Christ. For me, so my thoughts is, like he said, it's going to cause confusion because these kids have something called the internet, right? And most parents don't monitor what their children are Googling and looking at on the internet. And I hate that Western civilization makes sex a horrible thing, but I think kids are going to start to ask questions about what they see on Facebook or what they see on YouTube, or I hate to say the word, but these kids watch porn sites at a very young age. So I think it's going to raise questions. And then my second comment is, can we not just get rid of the state of Florida? Did they not mess up a whole election? Have we not learned to stop believing? Like, can we donate Florida to Djibouti or Kenya or somewhere? Just like, can we get rid of that state? What purpose does the state of Florida serve?
So here's my overarching issue with that, right? Is ultimately when we look at things, especially through a lens of sexual orientation and sexual identity, they're often racially led, right? Which means that this is not going to affect white children who are identified as anything non-heteronormative. It's going to affect particularly Black children that identify as anything non-heteronormative, non-binary, non-system, whatever, etc. And so what this does is it teaches or donates the notion to teach tolerance at a very early age, right? And so what we do is, again, we perpetuate bigotry, we perpetuate ignorance, we perpetuate intolerance, and we're doing that at a very early age so that then when there is an appropriate time or opportunity to have those conversations or be in that place, people don't know how to respond. And I'm not saying that you push your particular values or belief systems onto people. I believe that, parents should have a choice as to what is or is not appropriate to their child and to what degree. Just like when I think about when we had sex ed in high school, right? You used to have to sign the slip that your parents said it was okay for you to have a conversation and do those things. Like, I'm perfectly fine with that. But to perpetuate again, and y'all know how I feel about systems, legalities, and structures that are intentionally designed through a racist and a discriminatory lens, perpetuating these things in an era where we are all supposedly right about change and being proactive and moving things to a greater extension, but then we push this technological lens and we push everything to move to a technological lens where I can look for whatever I choose in seconds and have it at the touch of my hand. But we cherry pick what is and what is not appropriate.
And because of how vague the law is, it's going to wind up being the case that every district is going to be applying it differently. So in more conservative regions, they're not going to get anything at all or get it from a very negative lens. And from more liberal regions, they'll get something, but it'll they'll still have that problem of the pushback from the conservatives in their community because they'll be able to try to pull up this vague law to try to justify getting rid of all of that educational curriculum altogether. So it's just a mess. I think it's a really big mess. I think it sets a very horrible standard, and I think that it turns the clock back on progress that we had been making.
And I think to your point,
what I hate to say is, I'm sorry. Hey, Brandon. Hey, Terry. We missed the
Terry.
So remember, you see DJ goes deep, and I'm just like, get rid of the whole state. DJ, yeah. I'm just like, get rid of the whole state. But
if we get rid of states, can we start with Mississippi? Like, really?
yeah.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I hate to say this because y'all know I'm a Georgia boy.
And take Indiana with them.
Wait, no, because my mama didn't get her cigarettes for cheap. Okay.
Take Indiana with
So,
them.
as a Southern boy who went to a graduate of the greatest school known to mankind, the Florida State University,
Only in your mind.
but
I digress.
Get rid of the whole South. Because if this happened in Florida, Georgia's finna follow suit, right? And after Georgia, it's gonna be Alabama. Ain't nothing good ever came out of Alabama, so we need to get rid of Alabama.
Thank you, Rakia.
like, get rid of Alabama. Keep going. Get rid of Mississippi. All right. Get rid of North and South Carolina. They ain't even worth keeping the name. Get rid of Kentucky. Just get rid of all that, and then just start over.
So instead of secession, we just put them out.
Right. But no, this is what we do. We put them out, and then we invade them and take over, so they can be like Puerto Rico. We own them, but they ain't got no representation. That's what we need to do.
I mean,
because I'm just like as a Southern boy, I'm sick of these stupid laws. Like it always starts in the South. When Barack Obama was elected president, do you know what state submitted a petition to secede from the Union? The state of Georgia. Why? You can't. It's against the law for you to secede, idiot. So just get rid of them. They should have no vote.
I mean, but we understand why. But I mean, historical context show us why it starts in those areas. We understand not just the conservatism, but the religiosity behind the belief systems and the values in those particular areas. And so it makes sense that when anything that is, and it's human nature too, and to some degree, right? When we don't understand something, we fear it. And our response to fear is to flee, right? That's a natural limbic response. Fight or flight, right? And when we don't get it, you either gonna fight or you're gonna flight. But whichever two serves the best purpose, we are statistically designed to do so. So, I mean.
So just for the record,
whole thing.
I normally am the one who goes biblical, but you said that, so I didn't go biblical. This is how you brought up the Bible. So I want you to know that we're going biblical because you brought up the Bible. I just put it out there because you always fuss at me like, you always bring up the Bible. So you did. Western civilization changes and modifies everything that it fears or that it wants to control and dictate how it's read and ran. With that being said, they feel like if we start the fear of, if you teach a child about being homosexual or same gender loving or whatever title you want to use it, that person is going to become gay. Gay is not a disease. It is not a airborne pathogen. I can't sneeze on you and you get gay. I can't look at you and you get gay. Well, I mean, if you look at me, you might get gay. But I'm just saying. But this is not something that we can just spread like that. You see what I'm saying? So this comes from ignorance. And I'm pretty sure that the people who are putting it out there are people who probably are in the closet themselves. I'm a strong believer that anybody who's completely supreme anti-LGBTQ plus and the rest of the alphabet, they're in the closet because you hate what you typically feel like you're drawn to. And I hate to say this, but it's a lot of the gospel singers in their songs. We come against homosexuality because you used to be with a woman. Or you want to be with a man. Let's just be real about it. Call a spade a spade. But DJ, don't give me my soapbox because you know how I feel about my soapbox. We'll be here all night.
No, we won't because we got bills to pay and things to do. So amen.
Whatever. We're gonna have a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're gonna get into our main topic: Black male empowerment. Y'all, this is about to be good. I got some questions. I think we got the two right people on this panel for these questions because we're not going to get through all the questions because their answers are going to be like documentaries. So, but we'll be right back after this commercial break. All right, guys. All right, welcome back. I was reading the comments sorry, I was not paying attention. If you have a podcast idea, podcast topic, I highly recommend Ricky Z Media. That is our production manager. That is our production company that we go through. When I say she handles everything from A to Z and everything in between, your flyers are put up time, your screen, your production time. She keep you on time. If we start going over, she's like, hey, roll it in. If we start, because one show we got real. It went real. It's. And DJ got us in trouble because she had to come on the camera and get us together.
I wasn't on that show. Thank you.
Wasn't on the show. That was you, Arteria. That was you, Arteria.
She keeps us in line.
Busted.
Because I'm not the one who gets in trouble. But Arteria led that show. Arteria came on. She was like, hey. This is a kid. This is a family-friendly show. We have to do it after dark. So I'm not the one who got in the most trouble. Arteria got us in the most trouble. I'm the one who gets in trouble the most, though. So I highly recommend Ricky Z Media. You can email her at nocluetheshow@gmail.com. She does check your emails. Like, what production manager checks your emails and respond to them? So definitely get in touch with her. She is the bee's knees, if bees have knees.
Good evening.
Guys, there's your friend, the parts guy.
Right, that is how he is affectionately known at No Clue.
Right. Romero, he came on the show, and one of our virtual grandparents sent an email and said, "Bring back the parts guy. We like him."
The parts guy.
Yeah.
But we have his spouse on. It's just so cute. They're such a cute couple. Makes me want to just go get. Nope, that moment just passed. All right, so let's get into our main topic. Black male empowerment. Are you guys ready for it? I have some questions I'm going to ask, and I just want you guys to give me your honest to God truth. Romeo, I hate to say this, but there is some profanity on this show. DJ is a cusser.
I mean, he knows his child, so we ain't got to go down that route.
Last time we had Bishop on here, DJ was beep, 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 beep. I was like, oh, God. This sounds like a Young Thug video. All right, so let's
the Cat Williams version.
Let's get this party started. First question: what is your definition of being a man?
Okay, I'll go first. And I'm gonna try not to keep emphasizing this all night, but for me, because obviously this is a very relative topic and conversation. But for me, the definition of a man is someone who has come to an awareness of his own self, and then has come to a place of taking ownership for it, taking responsibility for it. So it's a person who's done some introspection, some self-reflection, who has been able to divide their own identity from the world around them, from family, from church, from society and friends, and to be able to stand in their own selfness, if you will, and take ownership of that and what that means, and to come to defend his right to be himself. And I think that carries over into a whole lot of other areas. But to me, that's like that central core of just owning oneself, knowing and owning oneself.
DJ?
Those are a lot of my components, but I would also just have to add, but I would also have to add the component of being emotionally mature and emotionally stable, right? So being in touch with one's emotions, because we know a lot of, and I'm gonna try not to go too far into it, but we know a lot of what we are taught and constructed through social constructs and lenses at an early age is about a lack of emotionality and a lack of expressiveness. So it's one who is in tune with their emotions, that has an emotionally intelligent and an emotionally healthy relationship with himself, but one that also is not afraid to take up space in appropriate actions without infringing on the space of other people.
So in my mind, I thought you was going to see how we all feel when we have to go behind you. And, you give this long, thought out, theological, dissertational. And we're like, being a man is knowing yourself. And then we're like, we feel stupid. But yeah, backfired. So let me ask this question. How can a boy become...
You didn't answer the question.
Oh, my definition of a man is what he said and what he said. No, my definition of a man is just someone who is walking in their truths. They're walking in their identity. They're walking by who they are, what they believe. For me, a man is someone who makes up their mind and does not allow others to influence him unless they're influencing him in a positive way and not a deconstructive way. I think in our community, so many times we're told that a man doesn't use proper English, a man doesn't wear his pants around his waist, a man. We're gonna get more into that later on, but we're told what a man looks like, and in my beliefs, every man is different. If we all were supposed to look alike, I think we would all be made robots, and we would all look like cookie cutters, and we don't, because you have some people who are light skinned, some people who are dark skinned, some people who are short, some people who are tall, some people who are fat, some people who are skinny, some people who are slim thick. Still haven't figured out what that means yet, but yeah. So how can a boy become a man?
For me, it's really that same definition of madness, doing the work of learning oneself. And a lot of times that happens not by sitting and saying, but through experience. You learn about yourself by considering what you've been through and thinking about how you've gone through things and what you've observed and how those things impacted and shaped you as you developed. But I think that there's also a big part of this will also be this word intentionality. And that is to say, you don't just happen into manhood, that there has to be intentional thought about who do I want to be, not just who did life make me know, who am I choosing to be as this person that they call Romel. And so, yeah, I think for me, that's a big part of that intentionality.
So I think that becoming a man means you take ownership. You're no longer saying, well, my mama said, no, I messed up. I'm holding myself accountable, not having other people hold you accountable. My famous line is, I pay my student loans. So to me, that's being responsible, because a lot of people feel like you don't have to pay your bills. I stand on my own 2 feet. And when I mess up, I used to go crying to my grandmama. And be like, Mama, I messed up. And she's like, okay, well, how are you going to fix it? So I think being accountable also helps you become a great man. I want to add having a spiritual component to it. Not saying you got to believe in Jesus, you got to believe in God, but having a belief in something bigger than yourself. For me, gives me the peace. For me, DJ, I'm being right. For me, gives me the peace that I can get through anything. Because I know DJ, but what about the people who don't believe in anything? They have the right too. Atheists don't have.
Do.
DJ.
But I think a boy becomes a man by first learning who he is as an individual and becoming comfortable with that, and taking the journey through that process, because it's not going to always be the same through those different developmental stages. He stands up for himself and learns how to stand up for himself, his values and his beliefs. He fights the fear of the unknown, because it's not going to be, that transition period of being the boy, being in the thing, turning into a teenager and going into manhood is a difficult place, and it could be scary. And so you have to be able to be comfortable navigating that transitional period and understanding what it is. They listen to sound advice, because all advice is not sound advice, and people will tell you some things that are damaging, so you have the capacity to know how to learn and filter through those things. And most importantly, they're not afraid to express themselves in that fact of being who they are. And that goes back to that finding that core of what makes them who they are and standing firm in that.
So foundationally, what qualities will make a good man? Now, I'm not saying things like, be a billionaire. That doesn't make you a good man. Clearly, we see all these celebrities have billions of dollars, still cheating, sleeping around, got 47 kids, about 48 baby mamas. So what qualities can make you a sound good man?
I mean, I guess for me, the first thing is honesty, right? We have to be in a very transparent and open space with ourselves. And that creates an environment to be able to do that with others. The other thing is going back to what I said earlier about that level of emotional maturity and intellectual emotional intelligence, right? Knowing how to regulate emotion, knowing what's appropriate, knowing what isn't appropriate, having a conversation to be open and honest with dialogue. And that does include that emotionality piece, because we're often taught to suppress that in a huge, huge way. Having integrity, right? What values do I have? What morals do I have? Do I stand on them? If somebody says something, does it cause me to stray from that? And how can I produce that and show those things in other realms of my life? Again, being direct to some extent, I think is an important quality of a good man, because sometimes your yes has to be yes and your no has to be no. And you have to be okay with standing firm and being direct on that sense of that it's what it is. And that last piece is understanding that I don't always have to have all the answers, and that's okay.
So we got honesty, integrity, and being man enough, lack of better terms, to say I don't know. Okay, Romeo.
I would add, certainly agree with all of that, and I would add taking responsibility for oneself and for not only the self but also the community, to realize that you're not an island unto yourself. Obviously in Western worldviews, there's so much individualism, and we've lost a lot of that tribalism, for lack of a better term, of realizing that we're in this thing together. And so I think that for me, manhood also realizes that I have to also be about my family, be about I am my brother's keeper, And so when I say community, I'm not going to define what that means, because that's going to be different for each person.
Mm-hmm.
But at least as each individual defines it, that they realize that they're not only responsible for them, that their choices have impact in the lives of other people, and to be responsible for that. And I would also add this idea of not being afraid or threatened by someone else's identity. Part of being a man is being confident enough in who you are that you let other people be who they are, and not feel like who they are is in some way an attack on your own self-image, because to me that means that your self-image needs some work. So I would add that too.
Well, he answered the next question: how do you become more confident? But hey, there we go. I believe in the old African proverb that it takes a village to raise a child, and I don't necessarily mean that strictly as to raise a child, but it takes a village to raise a man. Like, I had a whole village. I grew up in a time where if you went down the street and you acted up down the street, whoever house you was at, they mama finna tear that behind up. And as you was walking home, you better hope somebody else mama didn't hear about it, because they finna come out and tear your behind up. And then when you get home, your mama finna tear your behind up, acting a fool and embarrass her in front of you. That's where I grew up. But that village taught me respect. That village taught me discipline. It also taught me to wear multiple pair of pants if I know I'm gonna act up. But it takes a village to pour into someone. I'm quick to tell my story that I grew up in the hood of Atlanta, like the projects, like the hood. And my mother, thank God, has now delivered from it, but she was addicted to drugs. And I had a teacher who to this day is still my heartthrob. But her name was Miss Brown at the time. She's now Dr. Brown. But she told me, you will not be a victim of your circumstance. And that has stuck with me my entire life. She was like, just because that's what you're going through does not mean that's where you have to be. So she kind of saw something in me and pushed me to achieve other things, like becoming a United States Youth Ambassador, being able to go and travel the world. She is the reason why I chose not to sit in the rut that I was in. And she was a female. And between her and my grandmother, they say a woman can't teach a man how to be a man. I think they did a pretty good job. But I think it takes a village. We have to get back to that mindset of community. Like you said, it's not me and I'm all alone. We have to do this together. I think we've seen that throughout the recent times, that when we come together and we do peaceful protests, we can make some things happen. We can make some changes to laws. We don't need you to recognize us and put up a placard. We need laws change. And I think that's what's starting to happen now. I think this was a good foundation. So now we're going to have fun. The good stuff. What is...
Well, I had some things to do.
Oh, I'm sorry, DJ. My bad.
Didn't,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
To go back to the being a confident man component of that, the first thing is you got to believe in your own ability to make your own decisions, right? And you got to take ownership of your decisions. You got to be able to tune out negativity, like I said, and that comes with, figuring out what is right for you, what isn't right for you, what doesn't do that. Embrace your mistakes. You got to know you're not going to always get it right every single time. But if I embrace it and I learn from it and I can do better, better, so I can move forward accordingly. I have to then hone in on what I'm really good at, focus on my strengths and not my deficits. So if I know I'm the best dressed person on this side of the mason, then that's what I'm going to do. And that's what you do. You hone in on whatever it is. You have to focus on self-care and know when enough is enough and when it's not enough for you, or when it's something that I absolutely cannot do, and being firm in setting those boundaries and those guidelines to ensure that that's what keeps me healthy and me confident And the last thing is focusing on or honing in on my imperfections. I'm not going to be what the media portrays me to be or have this image of who I'm supposed to be. I'm perfect just the way that I am. And learning that process of being comfortable in doing that.
You know what I got from that? No is a whole complete sentence.
That was a component of that, but that wasn't the only part of that conversation. But yeah, no is a complete sentence and does not require an explanation.
No, because you know what? I need to start saying no. I want to right now. Nothing moving on. Ooh, that's good. That's gonna be a good sermon. No, a whole complete sentence. No, period.
See, even passed.
What? I'll give you. No, I won't.
See?
You know, I came from the South. I heard somebody say, "Who is that? Somebody pass it was me." I don't know who you're talking about. Boy. So something that's real big right now. What is masculinity?
Oh Lord.
Yes. Yes.
So for me, and I really have to underscore that here. Okay, so let me begin by saying that to me, nothing that we have discussed so far is in any way different than a woman. What does it take to be a man? What does it take to be a woman? To me, they're identical. So even though we're talking about it, we're really just talking about what does it take to be a grown adult, you know? But now when we get to masculinity, this is where it gets a little different and it becomes more gendered. And for that reason, this becomes much more difficult for me to try to articulate because I don't think that. So first of all, it's extremely cultural. Okay, it's extremely relative, and so what makes for a man in 2022 is not what made for a man in 1985, or what makes for a man in 2022 St. Louis is not what makes for a man in Djibouti in 2022. So it maybe I should have chosen a different country name. Not what makes for a man in Timbuktu. We'll go there. So anyway, forgot who I was dealing with here. All right. So for me to answer that question, I mean for masculinity, so for me to answer that question, I guess I would say that generally masculinity is usually juxtaposed against femininity. So if the idea of femininity is something soft, something fragile, something delicate, then masculine would be something hard, something rough, something butch. I think those are very cultural things. I don't necessarily like those things, but the way our culture defines that term, that seems to be what sticks. Again, especially as it's juxtaposed against femininity. And I kind of don't like the fact that masculinity is juxtaposed against femininity, but culturally, that's kind of what it is. Yeah. Okay. Back to you.
Well, the first thing is it's a social construct, right? And for all of those very reasons, we don't have any quantitative or qualitative way to define this particular equation says this equals masculinity, right? So we know that it's a social construct. The other part to that is, unfortunately, especially in westernized cultures, masculinity is defined by your genitalia and what you do with it and who you do it with, right? That's the laws of how those things work. Masculinity is also often associated with aggressiveness, dominance, the ability to take up space, whether you are invited into that space or not. And unfortunately, and to some degree, a level of violence and aggression.
So my dissertation included a piece on this, and there was this Psych D professor who sat on the board that was doing my defense. And in my paper, I made a comment that women are just as strong as men. Right? A woman gives birth. I put the little things on my stomach, and they tell you what contractions feel like. I got to when contractions are 4 hours apart. I was get these. Oh Jesus! Like that stuff hurt. And they was like, you haven't even got to when they're like consistently back to back. I wasn't gonna make it. And so he kept saying, so you're saying your grandmother is as strong as I am? Because I told him I was raised by my grandmother. And I was like, I'm saying that women are as strong as a man. So your grandmother can do anything I can do. I said, I believe women can do anything that men can do. So your grandma said, you got one more time to say your grandmama, because I'm from the South. At that moment, I will put this degree down, and I'm going to show you what a man can do to another man. But I just feel like masculinity is me. Masculinity is DJ. Masculinity is Romeo. Masculinity is Billy. Masculinity is Bob. Masculinity is Tamar Braxton. Masculinity is Lil Nas X. Masculinity is whoever you are. Femininity is whoever you are. I believe we all have traits of both if you want to give them terms. But to me, just be yourself. That's what these terms mean to me. Just because the next question is what defines masculinity in our community?
Can I ask you a question though?
Yes.
In relation to what you just said,
Uh-huh.
if, and this is actually something that I actually brought up in seminary, if masculinity is everything, which is kind of what you described it as, then is masculinity anything?
No. Masculinity it's a word. That's what masculinity is. It's a word. There is no such thing as, because if you go to certain countries, what we call a man masculinity, they're looking at you like, what's all the like? What is that? Calm your over aggressive self down. No, masculinity is nothing. Femininity is nothing. It's what you make it out to be. It's what you choose. The same thing I believe with gender. Now, me and DJ has had this fight. I cannot refer to people as thee and they because that's in third person. And I like English, and I cannot talk about a person in first person, in third person, because it makes me it does not register in my mind. Okay, we've had that talk. But gender is whatever you are. Be you. Do you. You knew that was coming.
Well, gender is fluid and exists across a spectrum, as I continue to reinforce. And gender also is a social construct, which is a whole nother thing again. So, but what you're talking about specifically is really gender expression and gender identity, which is not gender in the sense that we usually use it. We use gender interchangeably with sexual orientation or biological sex, and they are not the same. Remember, I had the whole conversation where I said gender is what's in between my ears, but sex is what's in between my legs. So, it's whatever I feel about myself and how I express that. But my sex, biological sex, is the anatomical features and the chromosomal features, those biological components of what distinguishes male and female.
So, getting back to what's toxic masculinity in our culture has portrayed as toxic masculinity.
I would say it's a lot of what DJ enumerated when he was describing masculinity and how in the Western culture, and I would even go as far as saying in the Black culture, how we allowed it to be defined for us. And so some of that includes this idea of virility, like the more kids you can have, the more of a man you are. This idea of aggression, feeling the need to inhabit a space and be the king of that space because you feel threatened. So to me, aggression is actually a sign of weakness, not a sign of strength. Because when you get to the psychology of it, it's actually quite different than it appears on the surface. And going back to something I said earlier, this idea of not being able to let other people be who they are without feeling threatened. I was watching today where I forget his name, somebody I hadn't heard of, but anyways, on one of these shows, a guy asked him, was he bisexual? And so his answer, was like, well, why are you asking? Blah, 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 And so that question of why does it matter? How does it impact our ability to sit in this space, occupy this space together and have conversation, have drinks? But because we feel threatened by somebody else's sexuality or feel threatened by somebody else's masculinity or femininity, we feel threatened. And so to me, toxic masculinity is just existing in a place of always being threatened and having these ways of projecting oneself in a way that hides that feeling of threat. Also, and this goes exactly what I just said, toxic masculinity is divorcing men from the ability to express their emotions. Accept anger and aggression, right? But can't express sadness, can't express doubt, can't express uncertainty, can't express fear. Yet those are all part of the human experience that make us who we are as human beings. And so I think the toxic masculinity divorces us from the full expression of who we are as here we go, God created.
For me, I was raised as a child. My dad said, men don't cry. Men don't show emotion. Men don't cry. And so my grandmother would say, what's wrong? I would say, I feel like I want to cry. She said, I didn't cry. I was like, no, because men don't cry. She would punch me until I started crying. And I was like, why are you hitting me? She said, cry. And I was like, no. She's like, no, cry, because you're a man. You have emotions. Let it out. Because if you hold it inside, that's when you decide to kill people. And you ain't finna kill me in my own house. So I feel like we have to get past it. Just like you're not a man if you go to therapy. My therapist divorced me after 13 years. Like, hurt my feelings. I love therapy. I think therapy is something everybody should do, because you have a person who you can literally unload everything and help you get to the root cause of a lot of your anger, your frustration. You find out that I'm not this thug that people have made me out to be, that I can be educated, I can speak proper English, I can wear my pants around my waist. I don't have to show you I have on SpongeBob underwear, you know, things like that. But we live in a society where the parents aren't raising the children, media is. And so if I see these quote unquote millionaire celebrities who sag their pants and look like this, then that's what I need to do. I don't know, y'all know who LL Cool J is, right? All right.
We call him Lips.
I can't with you. I know him by his body, but still, nonetheless, LL came out when people started sagging their pants. He was like, pull your pants up. Be respectful not only to yourself, but to the people around you. And he was an advocate for wearing your pants around your waist. And I believe that's why some of his music dropped off, because people was like, no, you know, I need to be a thug, and thugs sag their pants. But people don't want to own up to the truth that comes from the prison system. When you sag your pants, that means you're that you're taken, that somebody owns your booty. But then people want to say that.
No, that's not what that means.
That's what my cousin told me, and he in prison. Because I said I don't sag my pants. He was like, good, because that means you ain't free booty. And I was like, ain't nothing about free. You know,
I've heard that theory. I've heard the slavery theory. It's so many different theories about where it comes from.
But our response to all of them is, oh, that ain't what it means to me. Like the N word. Oh, when I said I don't mean it like that, it's the same word. Where you put an A on the end or an ER on the end, it has the same derogatory meaning. But because you black and I'm black, it's supposed to be okay. No. DJ.
So for me, toxic masculinity encompasses 4 major components. The first we talked about, so I'm not going to dwell on that, and that's toughness and aggression, or over display of toughness or aggression. The second thing we talked about a lot too, and that's anything that's anti-feminine or perceived as feminine nature. The third component of that, though, is this notion of power, domination, submission, and control. That you have to be the person to take up space, and not just take up space, but when you enter it, you have to dominate that space. You have to have control over that space. You have to have control over what dictates or what does or does not happen in that space. The last component is that it's somebody that is not completely emotionally sound, well, or whole, right? And going back to all those things that we talked about not being able to express oneself or their emotions and having things bottled up and continuing to go through this same cycle. You know, and they say, you know, well, that's just how boys are, or that's just how men are. Those kind of very laxated and antiquated versions of what it means to be man.
So we're getting close to time, so I can't ask all these other 57 questions that our system and processes department came up with. So what are your hopes and concerns for yourself, your family, and your community? And by community, I mean the community that you directly affect and the community that you indirectly affect.
So for me, my hopes are, for me, because life is a journey and that we never arrive per se. I certainly hope to continue that journey, to continue learning myself, discovering myself, discovering who I am and who I continue to evolve into, because I continue to be shaped by my experiences, my relationship with God. They continue to all shape me. And, you know, what I really hope for my community, I really hope for, and I'll speak, so for me to specifically identify some of the community is my church community, but also my LGBT community, but also my LGBT Black community. What I really, really hope for is knowing ourselves. We've said this before, but I think that is so important, because so much of what we wind up doing is just duplicating what we see. You were talking about people sagging pants and stuff, and it's just a form of expression. But you're not expressing yourself. You're expressing somebody else and what they decided to do, right? So I really want people and us to come to a place of getting to know ourselves and realizing that who we are is worth expressing. That I don't have to suppress who I am and the inclinations and tendencies that are endemic to me as a person in order to duplicate what I see. And so that matters a lot to me. So I really try to do work even as a pastor or spiritual leader and trying to really help people to come to a place of celebrating. Because in the traditional church, we do so much of making people feel bad about who they are. And I'm like, how about we make people celebrate who they are? See the gift of their own individuality and rising up in their identity and being able to own and express that. And so I really want to see that for us as Christians, because we had a problem with that in the church, as LGBT people and as people of color in general, or LGBTQ plus people of color specifically.
That was good. I'm gonna preach that one day. No credit given. DJ.
For myself, I want to continue on this journey with therapy and really getting back to knowing me, getting back to discovering me and discovering other parts of me and my identity as I continue to move through it. For my family and my community, ultimately, my wish and my hope, my desire is that people can be in a place of being who they are, but specifically in the context of this conversation, that we can get to a place to understand that I can be open, honest, and vulnerable, because that's a whole part of this too, is a level of vulnerability, and that doesn't emasculate me. It doesn't take away from my manlyhood. It doesn't take away from who I am. And I think once we individually recognize that, then that will extend out to our families and our communities, because we'll start that process of unlearning negative behaviors. And that's what a lot of it is. It's just really starting the process of unlearning a lot of generational traumas and negative behaviors.
I agree with you both. I would summarize it by saying I wish we get the reverse crab in a bucket mentality. Instead of pulling each other back down into the bucket, let's pull each other out. More collaboration, not competition. More working together, because if you succeed, that doesn't mean I have to fail. I am my brother's keeper. Each one teach one. Now, what that means to me is if I make it, I'm not gonna give it to you, but I'm gonna show you how to get there. I think the problem in our community is if I won Mega Millions for $220 million, people expect me to just give them $5 million to pursue their dreams. No, I'll give you a starting fund, but you have to build it yourself. You have to do. Or if I write a play and I become a Broadway superstar, my play goes Broadway and I make millions, you expect me just to pull you up. Or if you become a singer, you need to connect me to the people, because I want to be a singer too. Look at Hammer. Look at Fantasia. Fantasia lost everything and had to do a bounce back. You see what I'm saying? Because you try to take care of everybody. I want to help you get to where you want to be. Help is the key word there. So we're all gentlemen on this conversation. I do believe. I apologize, Romeo. I did not ask you. What are your pronouns?
My pronouns are he, his, and him. Thank you.
Thank you, because DJ has taught me better than that. I should have asked that in the beginning. My pronouns are thee, she, and it, because I'm the shit. Never gets old.
Moving right along.
Right.
Strike two.
So what do you guys do for self-care? What do you guys do to take care of yourself that is for you? Like as a man. Wait, my menu is in a way. As a man, what do you do for self-care?
Well, as a means, I first of all turn off Facebook, because there's just a lot of negative. And sometimes you don't even realize that's like, wait a minute, why am I in a bad mood? I'm cool, but there's just so much negativity in that feed. So disconnected from social media. And what I like to do, I like to play. I'm not a gamer, but I do like to play games like on my computer, and so I'll play some games. I like to read also. I do that. But that's really what I do. And then I also, this is really typical, but I just sit there and decompose on the couch watching TV. I like to binge watch shows, so I do that as well.
That.
So for me, y'all know I have a great therapist, so that's always my first stop, is to check in on me, check in on my emotions, see how things are impacting me. But when I'm not in those sessions or not in that space, I enjoy writing. Writing is cathartic for me. And it also gives me the opportunity to just look at things objectively And sometimes it's just that's my space to get something out and move forward and do what I have to do. Again, that moment of catharsis. I like to get my nails done. I get my hair cut. That's self care for me. That makes me feel good.
Excuse me, got a little bit of cold coming on.
It feels good to me. It makes me feel good. So yes, I get my hair cut regularly. And I take a trip. I shop. I like to eat. So there's always things. And I also I play video games, watch movies, whatever.
For me, I love being near moving water. I'm a fire sign, but moving water energizes me so much. I just go sit by the water, and what I do is normally whatever's hurting me or ailing me, I project it out into the water, knowing that it's going down the river, and once it's gone, it's not coming back to me. I will ride for hours in silence in the car and just be with me and my thoughts. I drove from Chicago to Springfield in complete silence, and it was just with me and my thoughts and having the whole conversation with Robert. And I answered Robert, and Robert, we had a little bit of a small argument, but I won the argument. I love to get pedicures, manicures, massages. I love to write. And so someone put me in a reading group, and we had to read a book. I haven't read a book since I finished my degree, because at that point I was sick and tired of reading. Like when you have to write a dissertation, you read you are sick and tired of words on paper. And then people say, well, you can just get it on the Kindle and press it and it'll read to you. No, because they're monotonous in their tones. It puts me to sleep. I feel like I'm in a seminar class. And so, but I found that I miss reading. And I have a very vivid imagination. And I think for men, we need to know it's okay to have an imagination and live in the fantastic world that is beyond what we see. So yeah, that's what I like to do. I also like to play kid games. So if you ever at my house, I would throw a cup of water on you while you're in the shower, a pillow fight. I like doing water balloon fights. Like I love doing kiddie stuff. We can go to the playground, swing on the playground, play freeze tag. We can't play dodgeball because if I don't like you, yeah, I'm gonna beam that ball, boy, like we did in school. But I like to do kiddie things because I think there's a kid inside of all of us. What time is it? Oh, we're almost at time. All right, so we got to get ready to wrap this up because we finished this at 7:30. Jesus Christ, y'all, we just talking. All right, if you could give any advice to... Nope, we're going to make that our final thought. So we're going to go to a commercial. We're going to come back with our final thoughts. But for you two gentlemen, your final thought is this. If you could give advice about how communities and churches can promote success among Black men, what advice would you give? All right, think on that. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
Or something.
Get a PlayStation. Don't get an Xbox. I'm sorry.
Man, I'm still trying to get on the Nintendo Switch, but my kids keep hogging it.
I'm still playing the Ataris.
I'm still on my Sega Genesis.
Don't talk about Sega Genesis like that. If I could find a way to stream that.
You're the only person
Well,
who
the
streams
Sega is
Sega.
actually on the
Stop,
Switch,
though.
so-
Sega emulators and all Sega games are sacred. So
No. Because if I could just set up my camera just right, point it to the TV, y'all could see me play some Sega Genesis, play some old Sonic.
So Taymon and Julian and Rakia, I agree with y'all. Sega Genesis was the best gaming system. That was the last game system I played, and I was a beast on Sonic. You know what? I'm going to fire the system and processes department because they think they're grown.
Go forth and be great.
You going down to the grid. All right, gentlemen. So, what advice would you give communities and churches that can promote success amongst African American men? What advice would you give?
This is kind of funny for me because it's literally those two things: communities and churches. I literally think that those are the two things that we need in the African American community. That spiritual center. I really think that's important. Obviously, I would, but I think that's a very, very important thing to know that there's something greater than yourself, and that gives you direction and a course to work toward when it's positive and affirming, and not when it's But then also, again, that sense of community. I hate to use those two words that are in the question, but that sense of reclaiming, because I think we've lost a lot of that. We talk about the Black community. What is that? What is that exactly? I don't think there really is one too much anymore, right? Mm-hmm. But I think that to reclaim that sense of connectedness, that that oppression gave us. But then now that we got more free, we kind of lost it. And so to reclaim that sense of connectedness, that sense of, like I said earlier, being our brother, our sister's keeper, and working together toward common goals, even though they're not the same goal because we're all individuals, being able to still support one another's efforts to move, like you were saying earlier, to pull each other up. So, yeah.
Okay, boss.
I think the first thing is, just like I said early in a lot of my commentary and my dialogue, is that it's about letting people be who they are. I don't have to look like you. I don't have to be like you. I don't have to speak like you. My individuality is actually my gift, and that's what makes me unique. That's what makes me my contribution to this whole thing that we call life, right? Is the uniqueness of who I am. And I think that fits both in communal context as well as spiritual context, right? If people let people be who they are, and not feel pressured that they have to conform to this standard or this idea of whatever something is or is not, I think it will definitely create a foundation for success, because people would then go back to what I was saying about vulnerability. People wouldn't be afraid to be vulnerable enough to say and show those truer sides of themselves to get to the peaks of the places that they need to get to. So that's my
my advice to the church would be get into the community. Go into the community and let people know it's okay to be yourself. Be you. I don't believe that the higher being sees sex or sexuality. I think the higher being sees your insides. And I don't mean your physical insides.
Bros.
Right. I think he sees your heart. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to let people know. Be you. One thing I love is Gabrielle Union and her husband. They let their son be himself. Like,
she has a name now. She is no longer the son. She has a name.
I apologize. I humbly apologize. But, I forgot her name.
That's okay, but I'm just correcting the fact that she does have a name that she identifies with.
It starts with a Z. But I support that. Like, they're letting their child explore life. I think we all need to do that. And I think once the church starts saying it's okay and stop damning people to hell, I think that's when we're going to start making changes in our community, because a lot of our community looks for the church for guidance. If the church says it's bad, then it's bad. You know, a certain denomination is just coming into the reality that women can wear pants. It doesn't make them a man. They can wear pants. I think it's because the people who put a lot of money into the church wear pants, but hey, that's beyond that. But the church has to be the forefront of where we start making those changes, in my belief. The church needs to get out into the community. And I believe a lot of pastors have to stop being these higher than high, perfect people and show the people that I'm messed up from the floor up, just like you messed up from the floor up. I'm grateful that I have a spiritual leader who he invokes us. He promotes us to be ourselves. Bring all of you to the church. Don't bring just the good part and leave the rest outside in the car. Go get that out the car and bring it in the car. Bring it in with you. Don't hide who you are. You know, be your truthful self, and we welcome it. So that's all I got to say. Romel, tell us, how can we follow you, find you, any events you got going on? If you're in what area you in, if we want to come hang out with you, want to throw some meat on the grill or something, let us know how we can find you.
So I'm not going to tell you the area I live in, but the church is. But no, so I a spiritual leader, traditionally called pastor of the church in here in St. Louis in the Tower Grove South neighborhood, called The Sanctuary, 3646 Fairview Avenue. Services on Sundays at 12 noon, so you don't have to get up too early. I'm also on Facebook at facebook.com/ and this is my full name, no hyphens, / Romel Parks Weekly. You can connect there as well. And I certainly invite, as people continue the journey in life, if you have any questions about spirituality, if you have any questions about sexuality and faith, I welcome those. So please absolutely reach out. I'm here for it.
And to that point, check out his books, talk about the books, and where they can find the books.
Yes, I have 3 books there. All 3 are available on Amazon.com, available in paperback as well as Kindle version. The first is called Homosexuality, which is like a cross between homosexuality and Christianity. Homosexuality. The second card is called The Rebuttal, which I take about 300 arguments, anti-gay arguments that people use, and I rebut them from a biblical perspective, so that really helps people, give people ammunition to fight back against that with. And the third is called Homosexuality and the Death of the Church and Why We Should Let It Die. And it just talks about how I think what the way the church is responding to this issue is going to ultimately be the end of the church as we know it. but the church is still going to be triumphant, but it's going to come back totally different the way it was always intended to be. And again, those are all 3 available on Amazon.com. Thank you.
Could you also tell us the church website? How can we go to the church? Do we have to be physical members or can we be virtual members?
Yes, y'all are just feeding it out. Because I missed all of that, didn't I? So the church's website is at www.thesanctuarystl for St. Louis, thesanctuarystl.org. We do have both in-person and virtual membership options available. You can read all about the church on the website. You can watch our live stream on our Facebook page, which is at facebook.com/same thing, The Sanctuary STL. It just doesn't have the .org. But we do try to duplicate every in-person experience that we have online to make sure that our virtual members do have as much of a full experience of membership as they can. And we do have virtual members who are enjoying it. So I certainly welcome you all to consider virtual membership if you're not present in St. Louis.
Awesome sauce. Well, guys, we missed about 9 questions. So we will have to have them back. We might have to have a part 2, the men talk. So closing out, guys, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. DJ, give it to us.
Christian Mingle.
Support us on Patreon. We'll be back, guys. This is our last show for the season. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back new, better, and improved. So we're going to take a little break so we can rejuvenate. Chevette can pop out a baby. Arteria can have a baby. Whoa, Arteria's going to kill me. I just said she's going to have another baby. But before we close out this show, I do want to send a special happy birthday to our church grandmother who is turning 91 years old. So a happy birthday from the No Clue team. We're so grateful for your life. She taught me how to play bid whist. Bam! We have fun at church. Like, what church can you go to and play bid whist? Or play Connect Four? Because, I'm not going to say who beat the spiritual leader several times in Connect Four.
Several times.
But we have fun at church because church should not be a place where you're beat up. It should be a place where you can go and have a great time. We will see you guys later. Be good, be safe, and remember this. When you think you have life figured out, you realize you really have what?
No clues.
Thank you.